The Philippines is endowed with the richest natural resources. We are considered as one of the world's 17 mega-diversity areas. The Fraser Institute survey of mining executives ranks the Philippines as the 12th mineral-rich country in the world. The resource commodity focus of the government and business sector values natural resources based on the conventional law of supply and demand.
There is a growing demand for minerals every day. There are new uses of these minerals being discovered. The government would want to maximize the use of these resources. If the use of this mineral would not have the chance to be extracted from the ground and be converted into wealth, it will be buried there forever.
60% of the processing plants are in the Caraga region, so you have a ready market for your produce. Don't say it's because of patriotism or love of country. Say it for selfish reasons. We want a perpetual forest.
If our mineral resources are explored extensively, it will definitely benefit our present economy.
Net present value, or NPV, is a neutral economic tool used for considering the benefits and costs of commonly traded goods consumed at the present.
We come up with an estimate of the size of the deposit, the amount of metal contained therein, and arrive at a mathematical estimate of just how much the metal is worth in the ground. Well, this does not take into account the amount of money involved to get it out, of course. A ballpark figure being used by government right now is around $800 billion US.
If we are able to demonstrate that there are costs and benefits in doing mining activities, by resource valuation, obviously we can then weigh that off against perhaps the degradation of the environment, of the biodiversity, for example, that would result from such activities, and we can balance off the cost.
Mining is the top priority of the current government. Disregarding the environmental disasters of the past, government renewed its campaign to promote the mining industry amidst huge community opposition. The Supreme Court of the Philippines reversed its original decision on the constitutionality of the Philippine Mining Act of 1995.
Yung mina, iilan lang ang makakuha ng yaman yan at iilan lang ang makikinabang sa minang yan.
Bakit kanilang priority mo pre-prevail sa atin? Ito lang ang atin. May bansa silang sarili, ito lang ang ating bansa eh. Pero dito binibigyan natin sila ng priority. Bakit ganon?
Despite the government's push for mining, however, existing land use policy gaps pose a great challenge in the implementation of these plans. The DENR Forest Management Bureau presents the different land use classifications for Philippine forest lands, which excludes mining use. The Mines and Geosciences Bureau, another agency under the DENR, has developed their own map of Philippine mining reservations. How can the primary government agency that is responsible for the country's environment protect and mine in the same area?
Nakakalito na sa mga tao. Talagang marami nang nagtatanong, ano bang mas importante? Yung mina o yung watershed protection? Yung Dinagat Island ay napakaliit na isla yan. So ibig sabihin, kung miminahin ang buong isla, sa liit naman yan, mawawala sa mapa yan.
Prutas ang ipasanay natin, gagawa tayo ng maluwag na plantation. Yung prutas ng lansones ay hindi yan pang seasonal. That is lifetime. So wala kang tigil ng income every year. Pag every year mag-harvest ka, within 10 to 20 years. Kung pulubi man siya ngayon, after 20 years, naging billionaire siya. Kahit isang hektarya lang.
In order to make the forest more valuable, we realized that we could harvest wild fruit and process them and make jellies and jams. By doing that, then the forest becomes more valuable as forest. Several years ago, 1995 I think it was, I was invited to come and help the community in what they call Green Valley. There is rather rich mineral deposit in the valley. From my rough calculations, it looked like the income from agroforestry, especially the fruit, was much more financially beneficial than the gold and the copper that were in the mine. And it turned out that over a 50-year period, we were going to get from agroforestry alone over 18 billion pesos. If they implement the mines, the total income that they will get, including all the gold and the copper, and not even considering social costs, and not considering environmental costs, the total amount they'll get is something over 10 billion, way below.
The government should immediately resolve policy conflicts and overcome a long record of poor environmental governance, now that most of our resources are scarce and severely degraded.
Whether the planners will accept that is another thing altogether. We all have lived in this country long enough to know that a lot of decisions are not necessarily based on just technical analysis of costs and benefits, but let's face it, political considerations are very, very prominent, if not the most dominant in the policy decision making.
If we persist in using this idea that development is going to be primarily driven by private profit in a market, if we are going to persist in that, walang pag-asa resources ng Pilipinas. Kung gusto nating ma-preserve yung mga naiiwan pa, kailangan palitan na yung system of valuation. Kailangan ang valuation will be on the basis of communities. And dito sa atin, yung community kasi is really defined by the watershed areas. But in order to respect that, then your system of valuation must honor that system and must honor it while providing the best livelihood. Dapat sila ang kanilang priorities ang maghari sa paggamit ng natural resources diyan.
Recent data from the United Nations-sponsored Millennium Ecosystem Assessment states that 60% of the planet's ecosystem services are currently being degraded by human activities. Focusing on the economic value of these services may well be the only hope we have of protecting them. The limitation of the conventional valuation system is that it considers only the present monetary benefits and does not put a value on nature and the services it provides. The Haribon Foundation and other NGOs took the challenge by producing a source book on resource valuation that can help local decision makers objectively look at problems of market-driven economic growth and integrate nature into the picture.
Ano yung use values? Ito yung direct and indirect. Pag sinabi natin direct, ito yung katulad ng fishing, yung makukuha sa mangroves, yung mga nagko-collect ng mga shells. Ito yung mga produkto na makukuha mo sa environment na may halaga na sa market. Pero ang kailangan pang lagyan ay yung indirect use. For example, mangroves, coral reefs, may mga functional benefits din ito. Like for example, yung mangroves, hindi natin pa nalagyan yung halaga, yung protection, yung coastal protection, yung shoreline protection, na ito, malaking halaga nito sa community. Tapos yung isa na mahirap naman na i-value ng economists, pero dapat bigyan ng halaga, ay yung non-use values. So ano itong mga non-use values? Yung bequest value is ano ang gusto nating iiwan sa ating future generations.
NPV as a tool must be thoroughly explored to weigh the different land use options in decision making. As a second step, extended NPV must be considered to determine the more socially acceptable and economically efficient use of forest lands, mangroves, and coastal areas. This will present a more realistic figure of costs and benefits. Net gainers and net losers can be determined, and the results may provide a sound basis for land use policy decisions.
The matter about the value of natural resources was brought to the attention of the Samarnons. Dr. Mar Dalmasio wrote a paper on the value of biodiversity and the value of ecology. What came out from his study is more or less 24 billion was the actual value of water and water-related resources that could be damaged by a massive extractive operation in Samar Island, like logging and mining. I believe the total value of the damage to the ecology was placed at 43.5 billion, far beyond the valuation, the value that is claimed by the mining sector, which was placed at 21 billion.
There are many applicants, corporations and companies would like to go in our municipality to invest. But because of this resource valuation techniques, mayroon na kaming kaalaman ngayon on how to value the remaining resources that we have, because life depends on the natural resources that we have.
Itong resource manual na ginagawa natin, just on time ito. Kasi dito ma-appreciate ito ng tao kung why do we have to preserve the area for sustainable use. This is a tool na gagamitin natin for convincing our political leaders na mas maganda yung magkaroon tayo ng factual na evaluation ng resources vis-a-vis doon sa utilization of our mineral resources or whatever, or lagging kaya. Alam naman natin, kukunti lang ang nakikinabang dito.
Ang lugar na yan, buhay ng subanan yan. Lupa at buhay namin yan. Na doon kami kumuha ng ang gamot namin at saka pamumuhayan namin dahil doon kami magritual. Pumunta ako doon, makaiyak talaga ako na nasira na yan ang aming sagradong lugar. Pinatay nila ang mga subanon, buong subanan na naniwala sa lugar na yan. Masakit talaga sa amin.
Economic progress can be realized without exhausting the ecosystem.
Kaya ang law of supply and demand ay kailangan dagdagan natin ng elemento ng human compassion. Pagkalinga sa tao, pagkalinga sa ating daigdig. Caring for the people, caring for the earth. Sapagkat dun lamang tayo magiging sustainable ang ating ekonomiya. Nakakatuwa na magamit ko yung natutunan ko dun sa workshop para ipaalala ang halaga ng tubig. Sapagkat marami sa mga target areas ng exploration ng mineral reservation ay watershed area. Kaya sa magkabilang extremes ay ito ang Mineral Reservation Exploration Project at nandito naman sa kabila ang Forest Land Use Plan. At doon nagtagpo sa session na yun. Nakapag-isip ang mga PO na magsumite ng mga dokumento upang patunayan na meron silang actually na watershed area na ginagamit sa ngayon. Sa isang forum ay kinilala ng Mines and Geosciences Bureau ang existence ng watershed area sa loob ng kanilang proposed exploration area. Hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon ay pakikinggan kami ng ating mga decision makers kung sila ay hindi naman nakakaunawa ng aming sinasabi. Kaya malaking tulong na maulit pa ito sa iba't ibang level namin sa region. Nang sa ganun ay madali kaming mag-usap, magkakasundo kami kaagad.
The sound and informed decisions we make now will determine our well-being, not just for the present, but for future generations. Let us make the right choice.
I don't know about you, but I'm a little addicted to breathing. And also to drinking water. And I think that we will be all suffered unnecessarily if we destroy the water and the air. And the only way we can clean up all of the smog and the carbon dioxide that's being produced in Metro Manila is with a forest. And the forest is right up there. So if you want to stop breathing, okay, go ahead and destroy the forest.
Mining is a form of logging. But mining is worse than logging. Logging simply denudes. Mining not only denudes, it disembowels the earth.